Most people only go to the gym and train one or two things. It might be strength, it might be cardio, but those are the only things that they focus on, and then they wonder why they feel so disconnected to their bodies. What if I were to tell you that there are 7 attributes, 7 laws that govern human performance, and if you were to hit on all 7 of these aspects, you would actually feel like a superhero in your own body. And if you were to look at every single training modality in the world, whether that be powerlifting, bodybuilding, track and field, calisthenics, there are all ways to help implement and to hone in on these 7 laws. Let's go through them. So right now what we have are called the 7 Hermetic laws of athleticism. And I have been developing this kind of a system over my years of training, doing many things. Like I was doing calisthenics. That's how I initially started off. I did boxing earlier in my career, and I've just done a whole bunch of sports, especially in high school, wrestling, you name it. In my years, just kind of learning about all these different aspects or just playing all these different sports, I learned that the best athletes are also the best movers, and they didn't have one quality to them. They had multiple qualities that when they implemented it together, when it came to sport, they were just better able to outperform the competition. So you might not be an athlete, you might not care about this, but you do have a body and you still have these aspects about yourself that you need to consistently develop and to hone. Because when you develop all of these aspects, your other areas are going to improve as well, because some of these, as we're going to talk about, have correlation to each other, right? And so if you develop one, you develop the other, and you want to make sure you're well-rounded overall. The way I personally like to think about this is it's like a video game, right? You focus on one quality, you try to maximize it, and that's going to help you develop other stuff as well. This not only makes you a little bit more knowledgeable about your body and what it can do, it also makes the fitness modality and training in and of itself very fun. It's very gamified for you. You're almost like a video game where when you go to the gym, you understand what exactly it is that you're going to go for. If you're going to the gym one day and you're trying to get stronger at your bench press, right? You're optimizing this strength component right here. Versus if you're going to the gym and you wanted to work on your agility, you wanted to work on your plyometrics, you understand that you'll be hitting on this aspect right over here. And so this system is a way to improve your body in so many different ways, but also make this process fun and consistent with you. Because once you find this process fun, it is very easy to be disciplined. It'll actually be harder for you to not go to the gym than to go to the gym, just because you just have things to work on and you're just gamifying the experience for yourself. All right, so let's start off with the first law. So this is the law of strength, so STR. And the way I like to think about strength, it's the production and organization of force. So what do I mean by that? When it comes to strength, you're essentially treating yourself like electricity. Electricity has a flow, it has a current. But if the power bank that is not big enough, it doesn't have the capacity to maintain that electricity, is going to overload. The same thing comes to force. If your muscles and connective tissue just does not have the capacity to handle the force needed in order to do a pull-up, you just won't be able to do the pull-up. And so you want to make sure you're developing the strength attribute to the best of your ability so that you can then do the pull-up. And this is just one example, right? But it applies to many different other things. Let's say you're doing a deadlift or a bench press, whether it's like 300 pounds, 400 pounds. You want to make sure your body has the capability in order to do that squat, that deadlift, that bench press. And so every single time you go to the gym and you consistently get stronger, you're going to start off here. But over time, you're going to find yourself maximizing this capacity and getting stronger and stronger. Now, for me, the best example of people or fitness modality who have maximized that strength are powerlifters, because powerlifters have the skill of just driving as much force as possible in order to perform one single lift. And so powerlifters, for me, they're up here. They're at the upper echelon. Now, that doesn't mean that other modalities aren't also strong, because if you take gymnasts, for example, they're also going to be up here as well. But what it does mean is that they just have perfected one style of that production and organization of force. But bodybuilders, they're still going to be up here, right? If you take Olympic weightlifters, they're also going to be up here. All of these athletes have forms of strength. It just has different flavors. And in other videos, we're going to go deeper into that because, for example, we have hypertrophy, we have maximal force production, we have strength endurance. And with strength endurance, you're actually going to implement another law here. We're going to talk about those things later in different videos. But all you need to know right now is that one, strength has many different flavors. So do every single one of these laws. They have many different flavors that you want to hit on. But when it comes to development of strength, it's all about force. It's all about the production of force, the organization of force, and making it intentional. So that's the first law. The second law, which I didn't put it as a second one, I put it all the way down here, but I love this one, and it's speed. And this is honestly something that I'm starting to develop more within my own training myself, just because I'm doing much more martial arts. And in martial arts, you want to be fast. You want to be very explosive. It's going to give you the advantage if you're much faster than your opponent. Now, speed is a very, very detailed law. And I'm not going to pretend like I know the most about speed, but let's just say this. There are many hundreds of thousands of coaches in track and field, in basketball, and D1 athletics, in pro sports that are all trying to find ways to maximize speed. There are some components that I'm starting to learn just because I love the methodology behind them. We could talk about oscillations, right? We can talk about reactive catches. We can talk about overload eccentrics. These are all styles of training that relate to speed, but have a different way of training it. These are different aspects. Speed is probably the most creative law when it comes to any of these, just because of how many different ways there are to just work on your speed. And if you don't believe me, go on YouTube, search up how to get faster. You're going to see so many different coaches with so many different ways to train this style of training, right? So speed for me is honestly one of the more creative ones, but just know that speed also is all about force production, both velocity and intent applied to it. You're trying to move force, but fast, as fast as you can. Whether it be absorbing that force fast or whether it be producing that force fast, there's an implement of velocity inside of it. So that is what speed is. Now, the next one for me, the third one that's honestly the most important, especially for the majority of people, is mobility. Now, most people, they skip out on their mobility practice, unfortunately. And so if you don't have mobility, if you don't have the proper way to produce force in end ranges of motion, you're not giving your body the best ability to move. So let's take an example, right? If you can't produce force in a deep squat, more oftentimes than not, your body's not going to feel safe enough to let you get into a deep squat. And so what mobility is, it's training these end ranges of motion so that you can produce force in those areas. But there's different forms of mobility as well. There's also static, or it could be like static stretching. You'll see a lot of the yogis do this. This is what yoga will look like. There's also active, right? Stretching. This could be a PNF method or contract release method that some mobility coaches would do. There is also strength training and end ranges. This is honestly the way that I personally train it the most. Like, I will get a heavy ass barbell on my back and I'll do some Cossack squats with it. And I'll try to get deeper and deeper. Or a heavy ass barbell in the front rack position and I'll do some heavy split squats. These are all ways to strength train in my end ranges of motion. But there's also dynamic, right? Dynamic stretching. You'll see probably a lot of track athletes do this, or maybe martial artists. They're like swinging their arms, they're swinging their legs, they're getting blood flow into the connective tissue. These are all different ways to improve your mobility skill set and just get that capacity a little bit better within your body. But again, we could go very in-depth into this, and we are going to in different videos. But right now, I just want to introduce to you this methodology and how you can start thinking about your own training in this way. How you can start thinking about your training not just as a means to an end, but as a way to continuously play the game and have fun for it. This is a way to make your fitness journey very gamified and very, just makes you want to continue playing the game. It's an infinite game, and I want you to see just how infinite your body truly is. So that's mobility. And now we have two other ones. We got stamina. This is the one that most people are going to train, right? This is where we see cardio, because this requires stamina. It requires stamina within the lungs. It requires stamina within the heart. You're training the stamina. It could also mean stamina within the legs, your calves, your quads, your glutes. This could include the lungs. This could include the heart, so your cardiovascular system. This could include strength, endurance in the legs. Or if you're a boxer, you need stamina in your shoulders, right? It's very dependent on the sport and what it is that you do and what it is that you're demanding out of your body. Because if you're only going to the gym and you're only bodybuilding and you never realize that these are qualities that you can and should be training, you probably will never touch it. And so this is to help you visualize all the different ways you can just start training your body. And for today, the last one we're going to talk about is stability. Now, stability relates a lot to mobility, because if your body cannot properly produce the force in an organized manner, there's going to be some leakage in the force. So the way I like to personally think about stability, it's the proper distribution of force. Why is this important? Let's say, for example, you're standing on one leg, and this is a test that you can do for yourself right now as it is. If you're standing on one leg and it's very hard for you to balance and you feel most of the tension in your feet, right? That means you have a weakness in the body. There is something that's leaking, because that stability, ideally, you should be feeling it in the hip if you're doing a single leg balance, especially in the glute. You want to feel the glute med actually working. But if you feel your feet, if you feel your knees, right, that means there's not a proper distribution of that force within the balance spectrum. And so this is really important, because let's say, again, your body doesn't have the proper mechanics to distribute that force. And let's say you go back to strength and you're trying to power lift. Well, there's a discrepancy. If you're trying to produce force here, but your organization, your distribution of the force is inactive, it's no bueno, there's going to be a leakage in the system, and it could potentially injure you in the long term. Maybe not in the short term, but you're going to make micro tears that aren't meant to be there. And in the long term, it's going to hinder your ability to actually just perform and work out. And so stability really is a way to make sure that you have longevity within your fitness journey. The same is true for mobility, but stability is also up there as well. So if you're not actually teaching your body how to distribute the force in a way that's very conducive for it, then you might find yourself getting injured or just avoiding movements entirely. And it's not because the movements themselves are bad, but it's mostly because you haven't taught your body the proper way to move. Or maybe your body just has compensatory patterns that you need to address. And so those are all different ways to look at it. Now, in this chart, we have two different laws that I'm not going to go into today, but just know that they're very important when it comes to athleticism. Not only your performance inside the gym or inside sports, but also outside of sports as well. Because here's the thing, if you're training, and if your training is not making you better outside of the gym, what are you training for? Like, unless you're a professional athlete and that's how you're feeding your families, for the vast majority of people, you really want to teach your body how to be well-rounded as much as possible. Because with that well-roundedness, you'll be able to move more. You'll be able to play with your kids, your nieces, your nephew. You'll be able to go out with your friends and try something new without being scared that your body's going to betray you. You'll have more confidence to go hiking, to go skydiving if you want to. You have a lot more confidence in your body. And so these are all the Hermetic laws of athleticism. These are 7 components that you want to consistently hit on. We're going to speak about each of these a little bit more in depth. We're going to go over the 2 missing ones later videos. I just want to introduce the methodology to you just so you can start thinking about your training in that way. How can I maximize my body? How can I level up my body? What are aspects that I might be neglecting that's not allowing me to perform to my best, whether it be in my sport, whether it be just in my body in general. And so hope you enjoyed, hope you like this, and more videos are going to come. This is only the beginning. And so I look forward to the next videos. Don't forget to flow.